Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another video here on the SSA Philosophy channel, where we dive right on into the philosophy of characters from video games to TV shows to movies, etc., etc. So, in today's video, we're going to be going over the philosophy of the character known as Stringer Bell. So, of course, as always, without any further ado, let's go on ahead and get started. So, in the gritty, unforgiving landscape of West Baltimore, depicted in the HBO series The Wire, a few characters stand out quite like Russell Stringer Bell. Now, played with stoic brilliance by Idris Elba, Stringer Bell is a complex and fascinating figure who transcends the typical gangster archetype. While the drug trade, forms the backdrop of his story, Stringer really, I would say, overall is more than just a ruthless second in command. But really, he is a shrewd strategist, a businessman with a dark edge, and really is a man that is desperately seeking a way, really out of the game itself. So really, Stringer's roots, really it lies in the heart of the projects, where he grew up alongside his childhood friend, Avon Barksdale. And together they pretty much built, the Barksdale organization really into a formidable drug empire. And really with Avon as the charismatic leader and Stringer as the brains behind the operation. Unlike Avon, who, thrives on the power and violence inherent in the drug trade, really Stringer approaches the business with a cold pragmatism because he's fascinated by economic theory and aspires to run the organization like a corporation, maximizing profits and, minimizing risks. So really this distinction, really it becomes a central theme in Stringer's character arc because he dreams of escaping the brutality of the streets and establishing himself as a legitimate businessman. And really he invests in real estate, you know, oh, my apologies. And really he cultivates connections with influential figures and attempts to distance himself from the violent aspects of the drug trade. However, though, Stringer soon discovers that the line between the two worlds is often blurred, and the very system that he seeks to infiltrate is riddled with corruption, and the violence that he tries to escape seems to follow him like a shadow. So Stringer's ruthlessness is undeniable because he is a man who prioritizes efficiency and profit above all else, because readily sacrificing pawns in the grand chess game of the drug trade. Yet beneath the steely exterior, it lies a hint of idealism because he believes in progress, and finding a way to elevate himself and his community from the cycle of poverty and despair. And this internal conflict really it fuels his ambition and ultimately leads him down a tragic path. So Stringer Bell is a really really Stringer Bell I would say is a very captivating character study because really he's a man caught between two worlds, forever grappling with his own desires and the harsh realities of his circumstances. And really his journey in The Wire really I would say is really one where really it is a study in ambition, corruption and the elusive nature of the American dream. So, with introduction all taken care of and out of the way, let's go ahead and really dive into the philosophy of Stringer Bell. And this is what I like to call the Stringer Bell Manifesto: power through control. So, the first part we're going to focus right on into is the game is the business. So, the drug trade for Stringer Bell. So pretty much this is how Stringer Bell thinks. In his mind, the drug trade isn't mathematics or is a system to be optimized, but really it's about corner real estate, product quality control and minimizing risk. And violence is a tool, not a badge of honor. So really when it comes to the game and when it comes to the business, now when it comes to Stringer, when it comes to the game, he views the drug trade as really a complex system, not just random crime, because he sees it as a market with rules, competition, and profit margins. And then when it comes to the business side of things, he believes in running the drug trade like any other business because he emphasizes efficiency, organization, and minimizing unnecessary risks. And these pretty much overall includes things like, focusing on profit and not turf wars, and then investment and diversification, and then education and strategy. Now, when it comes to the focus on profit and not turf wars, basically on this part, Stringer prioritizes maximizing his profits over petty, like say, territorial dispute, petty territorial, disputes. And also, like, when it comes to investment and, diversification, he launders money and invests in legitimate businesses and, seeks alliances to create, like, say, a drug cartel in some sense. And then when it comes to education and strategy, because the thing about Stringer is, like, his classes reflect his desire for business, really for business knowledge, to really give him an edge. So yeah, so really when it comes down to these three parts, that really overall is what Stringer emphasizes, when it comes to efficiency, organization, and then, minimizing unnecessary risks. Now, when it comes to the part I'm focusing on profit and not turf wars, because really in season three, really overall, it really dives in more like, say, in between like the rift between like Stringer and Avon when it comes to like, both men and what it is overall that, both of them, pretty much when it comes down to both men and what it really is that they both pretty much are on the side on. Because Stringer, he's more like on profit, and Avon, on the other hand, is more focused on territory. By basically having to go on a war with, the Stanfield organization and pretty much having to take, whatever territory overall that they obviously had pretty much took, from the Barstow organization and basically trying to get into a war by trying to take them back. So that's pretty much overall, like, say, the difference, with Stringer and Avon. Like the Stringer was always a kind of guy that focused a lot, like when it came to like trying to do everything he could overall to like, make a profit, and Avon on the other hand was more focused and concerned about the corners, you know. So yeah, so really like that's that right there overall is like say like a little bit of like a difference between like both of the characters, really between like Avon, and really between Stringer, and there's been many videos out there that have been focused on like, who's right and who's wrong, when it comes to like, both of them and when it comes to like their approaches, and pretty much when it comes to like like was Stringer, like was he right in his way and how he approached it or what he was doing, or was Avon in the right? So that's always been like a debate that's, pretty much still goes on even today. That still sparks like a lot of discussion, amongst all the Wire fans. And also when it comes to like the investment and diversification, because that's see Stringer like he now see the thing about Stringer is that when it comes to him trying to like form up like say a connect like say with the co-op with Prop Joe and other like say guys on the east side, basically that was Stringer's idea. Like his idea pretty much was to form a co-op, kind of like like how like in this case like how the Italian mafia for example has like say the commission. That was pretty much what Stringer was trying to do, pretty much create like a commission of sorts. Pretty much, that was what the co op was all about. That was what the co op was pretty much built on that purpose of, pretty much on doing things like the commission did, pretty much, finding ways to, so they can make money and avoid, getting into any, like, say, unnecessary war with each other, and that was pretty much Stringer's idea, when it came to like investing and diversification. And then when it comes to like his education and his strategy, because Stringer, like in early seasons, takes these classes known as like I think macroeconomic classes, you know, and really it's like when you see him, like any chance overall that you see him, taking these classes, especially like in the first season, you can see Stringer like, in a class, because McNulty, Jimmy McNulty, a main character in The Wire in the series, actually was, kind of like, digging up all kind of information and trying to, tail Stringer Bell to wherever he was at and, trying to find out what Stringer was up to. And, he saw Stringer one time in a macroeconomics class, and you could pretty much tell that Stringer, he's more really than just some second in command, Rufus, like say, second in command for the Barstow organization, but he's also very, well educated. And, overall, he runs his like own little business as well, too. And, he does his best overall to like, to really like, make, the best out of his business to try and make it like, in his words, a true effing business, not a front, and not like anything else like that, but really make it a true business, and not try to like have it be like, say, some sort of front to stash and launder all like, say, their dirty money and everything. So really that's the thing. Like his classes really, reflect his desire for that kind of knowledge, to give him an edge. So yeah, so really this part of Stringer's philosophy, like this, like all these parts in in general, when it comes to like this part of his philosophy, really is I would say a dark reflection of capitalism because he takes that ruthless pursuit of profit and he applies it to a deadly industry because the human cost in this case is irrelevant and the focus is really on outsmarting the competition and also like building up an empire. And also another point I want to focus on is organization is power. Now Stringer he craves order, because he hates the unpredictability of street life, the impulsive violence, because he believes structure, discipline, and loyalty are the keys to building an empire. So yeah, really think of him as a corporate CEO, albeit a murderous one, running a twisted version of Wall Street. So really think about that. And the thing about Stringer Bell is that, the thing about his is that he recognizes the limitations of violence and impulsive actions because he believes in establishing a well defined hierarchy, clear roles and a system for managing the drug business. And really, what this allows for smoother operations, and really to minimize the unnecessary risks and ultimately, leads to greater profits. So really Stringer, like he values knowledge and uses information as a tool because he stays informed about the competition, the political landscape, and the law enforcement activities. And this strategic awareness really allows him to anticipate the problems and make calculated decisions. So really, Stringer, he isn't really just interested in making a quick buck, but really he has a vision for the future, aiming to legitimize his operation and eventually move beyond the drug trade. And this requires him to think, strategically, invest in like real estate and businesses and build alliances. So really this part of Stringer Bell's philosophy, really it isn't without its flaws because really with the series, with The Wire, what it really does well is really it explores the moral compromises that are inherent, in prioritizing organization over human life. However, though, there is no doubt that Bell's emphasis on structure and planning makes him a formidable force in the Baltimore drug scene. So, really, The Wire really delves deeper into the social and the economic factors that contribute to the allure of the drug trade. Exploring these themes alongside Stringer Bell's philosophy, really provides a richer understanding, of the complex realities that are depicted in the show. And also, another part to focus on is education is the weapon. So Stringer distrusts the muscle-bound thugs who dominate the drug trade because he values education, seeing it as a path to power and control. And even early on in The Wire, in the series, like he invests, like say, in the young, D'Angelo Barksdale, hoping to mold him into a leader who can navigate the complexities of the game itself. That's a reason why he pretty much goes out of his way pretty much to demote D'Angelo and pretty much sending him down like say in the low risers pit, pretty much to see if he can be like a young leader that can actually do that can actually prove himself to be a great leader, in the low rises pit. So really Strinkle, like his upbringing really likely shapes his perspective because unlike many people, in the drug game, he attends college and understands the potential education offers. And he even attempts to reform the drug trade itself, aiming to professionalize it and minimize violence. Now, this part of Stringer's philosophy, however, though, it is tainted, by his ambition and ruthlessness, because he views education as a means to an end, a way to gain power and influence within the criminal world, because he prioritizes control and wealth over social good. And the thing also is that Stringer's approach, when it comes to education, really it's filled with a lot of contradictions because he recognizes its value, but he remains tethered to the drug trade. And this duality reflects that harsh reality, the harsh realities of life in impoverished urban communities. Because education, it can be a path to a better life, but systemic issues and limited opportunities can make it even seem, pretty much make it seem like an out of reach dream. So really, Stringer Bell, his legacy is really one of complexity because really he serves, I would say, as a cautionary tale, highlighting the dangers of prioritizing wealth over social responsibility. Yeah, he also underscores. So yeah, the thing is though, is that even though he prioritizes wealth over social responsibility, he really underscores, the transformative power of education and the yearning for a better life that exists even within like the criminal underworld. And also another part I want to really focus in is really playing the system. So really Stringer, like he understands the institutions that propped up the drug trade. Things such as like corrupt cops, politicians who turn a blind eye. And really what Stringer does is that he seeks to manipulate them to become a player within the larger system and not just a rebel against it. So really the system for Stringer, really it is like the complex web of institutions, power structures, and even the social forces that govern life in the city. So, like the police, the politicians, the education system, the drug game itself. So, really, String, he recognizes that this system, he recognizes that that this system is rigged. Favoring the powerful and leaving the marginalized, like the marginalized, to really fend for themselves. However, though, Stringer doesn't really see this as an insurmountable obstacle, but instead he views it as a challenge to be navigated, because this part of his philosophy really is about understanding the rules of the system, and it's about the loopholes and it's the levers of power, and then using that knowledge to carve out a space for himself. So really, here are some key, like say, tenets, really of like this part of his philosophy when it comes to like playing the system, and really it's got to be these parts, which are information is power, playing both sides, and building institutions. Now, when it comes to information, as pretty much when information is power. Stringer is a master of information gathering because he understands that knowledge is the key to manipulating the system. Because he cultivates contacts in the police department, the political sphere, and even the media. Using them as like say sources of information and influence. And then when it comes to playing both sides, now Stringer isn't afraid to work with people who he ultimately despises, because he recognizes that alliances, even temporary ones, can be beneficial, because he can be ruthless with his enemies, but he's also pragmatic, knowing when cooperation serves his interest. So really, unlike many like say drug kingpins, content with like the status quo, Stringer has a vision, for the future, because he sees the drug trade as a stepping stone to something bigger, because he invests in real estate, creates legitimate businesses, and even tries to influence education policy. And really, the thing about Stringer is he wants to become a legitimate power player, not just a criminal kingpin. So really, this part of Stringer Bell's philosophy, really, it's very complex, because really, I would say it's a mix of pragmatism, ambition, and a cynicism about the possibilities of true change within the system, because really, he's both a product and a manipulator of the system. And his story really raises questions about social mobility, power, and the limits of the American dream. And also, another part I want to focus on is the illusion of legitimacy. So, really, Stringer, like his ultimate goal is to transcend the drug game. Because, like I said, because he invests in real estate, hoping to launder his money and gain a foothold in the legitimate world. And because really he aspires to be a power broker, someone who influences the city from the shadows. And really, on the surface, Stringer presents himself as a shrewd businessman, because he meticulously manages his drug operation, striving for efficiency and profit, maximization. And he also invests in real estate, attempting to launder his money and gain social status. And really, his pursuit of legitimacy, it reflects a desire to escape that violence and social stigma associated with the drug trade, because he aspires to a world where he can wield power and influence without the constant threat of law enforcement or rival gangs. However, though, Stringer's illusion of legitimacy, it crumbles under closer scrutiny, because his business is built on violence and exploitation. The very foundation of his wealth is derived from illegal activities that devastate the Baltimore community. So Stringer's, sanitized facade cannot really erase the human cost of his operation. So furthermore, Stringer's adherence to a strict moral code within his organization proves to be incompatible with this pursuit of legitimacy, because he ruthlessly eliminates those who threaten his operation, blurring the lines between legitimate business practices and criminal tactics. And really, his hypocrisy exposes the inherent contradiction of seeking legitimacy within a criminal enterprise. And also, his pursuit of legitimacy is ultimately doomed to fail, because the drug trade thrives in the shadows and attempts to bring it into the light inevitably, and pretty much inevitably lead to corruption and violence. So Stringer's story really underscores the enduring power of the illusion of legitimacy, while simultaneously exposing its destructive potential. But really, in truth, though, this pretty much overall is the conclusion of this video here today. But really, though, Stringer Bell is a very complex character, really a man who craves power and respect, but also order and progress. So, really, his philosophy is a very chilling reflection of how the drug trade can become a warped business with its own twisted logic and ruthless pursuit of profit. Now, Stringer's defining characteristic is his strategic, really is his strategic mind because he approaches the drug business not as thuggery, not as like, thuggery, but as a complex operation demanding efficiency and calculated risk because he studies economics, he implements, product, branding strategies, and attempts to legitimize the Barksdale organization through real estate ventures. So really this focus on the game as Stringer calls it sets him apart from the more hot-headed, like say, players. For example, like let's say like someone like a Cheese Wagstaff, for example, or other players like in this case, like say like Marlo Stanfield also as well too. Who are more pretty much concerned with the fact about wearing the crown, and stuff like that, rather than like pretty much by having to do what Stringer was doing pretty much within the series, within the Wire itself. However, though, Stringer's pragmatism, really it often bleeds into ruthlessness because he's willing to sacrifice pawns, even those close to him, in the pursuit of his vision. And really, his manipulation of Omar Little and even the eventual betrayal of Avon expose a chilling willingness to prioritize power over loyalty because Stringer's ambition extends beyond the drug trade because he aspires to a life of wealth and respectability. A dream that is filled by the belief that money can erase his origins. And he invests in, like really he invests in, gentrification projects, hoping to become a legitimate businessman. And this pursuit of legitimacy becomes a tragic flaw for Stringer because he fails to grasp, the entrenched corruption of Baltimore power structure, really of the power structures in Baltimore, underestimating the willingness of politicians and contractors to play the same dirty game that he's used on the streets. So yeah, so like I said before, so Stringer Bell, like I said, is a cautionary tale. A man that is forever caught, between, really forever caught between the brutality of the streets and the corrupting influence of the American dream. So really, his intelligence and strategic brilliance ultimately fail to save him, as he underestimates the human cost of his ambition and the long reach of the game that he's so desperately trying to win. And ladies and gentlemen, that of course is the end of this video here today. So of course, if you have stayed this long to watch this video, I do appreciate it. I really do thank you a lot, of course, and also to thank you for the support so far that the channel has gotten so far already. So I want to thank you all once again for that. So overall, I really, want to say, don't forget, to like, to comment, subscribe for more explorations into the minds of your favorite characters on the channel, and also to hit and also hit and also hit a notification bell to stay updated on my latest videos as well too. And really, with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much does it here today. So I hope you all have a very beautiful, blissful, and wonderful day. And always remember to always be smooth, to always be steady, and to always be aggressive. Peace.